This video is part of our study about similarities and differences in Latin America, with a special focus on health tech, clean tech, and education. What we do in Rubica, we promote brands that add value to the world. How we do it? We use business intelligence to discover opportunities and insights for our clients. Hopefully, you will find many of those in this presentation. And with that information, we help our clients adjust their products and services, co-create with them digital strategies, so then we can go and experiment in an agile way using all the diversity of digital media. And at the end, our clients end up selling more and positioning themselves better in the region. It is time to talk about education and specifically needs of education, needs of innovations in the K-12 education sector in Latin America. So let's start exploring first the size of the market. What you're about to see here, it's our compilation of the 8 countries that we studied. So you have here the total population of the 8 countries, and an average 24% of the population in these countries are in the age of attending K-12 schools. We're talking about 80 million kids, more or less. With some subtle differences. Let's take, for example, for Guatemala. Guatemala is the country that has its age pyramid wider in the base, and it differs from, say, Chile or Costa Rica, which is a bit lower. Now, the average coverage for all the countries is 81%. That means that from those 80 million kids that are supposed to be going to K-12, only 80% about are actually going. So here again, we're talking about more or less 65 million kids that are being taught by 5.3 million teachers in the entire region. You see here, for example, some very good coverages like Costa Rica that claims that has 100% coverage, and some other countries that are lagging a little bit behind, case of Peru and Guatemala for that instance. Now, another number that may call your attention is sorry about that. The other number that might call your attention is the student-teacher ratio. So here you see that 11.8 doesn't really add up for all the averages of these numbers that you see here. And the reason is that teachers are being double counted here. So teachers in the region, not most of them, but some of them have to work double shifts. Actually, the country where they work the most double shifts is Argentina. So that is why you have here the number for lower student to teacher ratio than it is actually the reality for the rest of the countries. And all of these almost 65 million kids attended by these 5.3 million teachers go to around 575,000 schools in the region. Let's check, for example, also the distribution of the market between public and private. So as you can see over here, we are talking about, again, averages. 77% of the kids are going to public systems and 23 are going to the private system. So public schools, of course, are larger. They also have the larger amount of students compared to the private. You have quite big differences. Take, for example, Costa Rica, where almost 90% of the kids are going to the public schools versus almost 10 or 11% going to the private. But then you have different cases when you see, for example, Argentina or Guatemala. Things that you need to understand is that, of course, the public system or negotiating with the public system, it's going to be longer and it's going to be a bit more difficult because that means making negotiations with governments. But then you will be getting to the larger amount of the population and actually the population that is most needing these innovations. Please remember from the videos previously about the inequality, and of course the students going to the public schools are the ones that are on the poorest side of the society. On the other hand, you still have a good market in the private sector, and private sector has always some tiers. So there are some very privileged, rich schools, and some others that are just trying to make it a bit better than the public system. Perhaps negotiating with the private sector is going to be easier for you. So sometimes what we recommend with the companies are going into this market is that perhaps you want to start with the private in small pilots, but at the very same time, go already and start negotiating with the public sector, which is where most of the innovations are needed.